It's Kelle Sparta. I am so glad you decided to join me because today we're going to talk about what is personal power. Now, I'm going to start by telling you what it's not. Okay? It is not domination. It is not charisma, and it's not influence. Now, having personal power can help you to do those things if you decide to, but it is not what those things are. Personal power actually is the ability to make a conscious choice in your life and to put that choice into action. And what that means is that you're making conscious choices rather than reacting to situations. And so in order to develop personal power, what you have to do is remove the things that cause you to react rather than respond from a conscious place. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next video, and actually a little bit more in the video after that. But for this one, we're just going to deal with what it is and what the elements of it are. So personal power is actually about conscious choice, right? So when you think about making conscious choices, one of the things that comes to mind is things like rebellion and feeling controlled by other people and other things. You know, when you're being controlled by other things, and this is what we were talking about with removing the things that cause you to react rather than respond, is when you're controlled by other things, you're not actually making conscious choices and you're not actually in your power. So if you're rebelling against something, it's controlling you because you're doing the exact opposite, and therefore it's determining what it is that you're doing. If you are in fear around something and you're reacting to avoid it, then that fear is also controlling you. If you are acting out of a desire for approval, then that thing is controlling you. So when you control yourself and you can remove the things that cause you to react rather than respond, that's when you're in your power. So let's talk about the things that make up your power. Let's talk about the elements of personal power. The first one is taking responsibility for what is. Okay, now what do I mean by that? What I mean is you have to own the fact that you have created your own reality. Because if you don't own the fact that you have created your own reality, then you're living in a space where you're presuming that something or someone else is creating it and that you are subject to their whims, and therefore you are a victim of your own life. So long as you are blaming someone or something else for your circumstance, you are powerless to change it. So this is the single most important piece of being in your power, is taking responsibility for what is and saying, I made this. Because if you don't do that, you can't fix it. Okay? Now, the second piece is knowing what you want. Because of course, if you don't know what you want, then you can't possibly create it, right? So if you spend most of your time saying, well, you know, so-and-so needs this and so-and-so needs that, and I don't know about this, and I'm not really sure what I want, and you don't give yourself time to figure it out, then you can't be in your power because you can't create from conscious place. Okay? Third is taking action to get it. Now, when you are in a place where you know what you want, you also have to be in a place where you're willing to go after it. If you stand in a place where you're like, well, I don't really know if I deserve it, or, well, it would upset the apple cart, or, well, I don't know if I could really do it or not, then you're not going to go anywhere. I mean, quite frankly, if you say it would be nice if, you might as well just give it up. Because it would be nice if means it's a pipe dream, it'll never happen. I'm doing this, I'm intending to do this, I'm going to do this, this is where I'm going to be in a year. Those are more powerful statements. And those statements will get you where you want to go so long as you put one foot in front of the other and work towards it, right? You have to actually make the progress in that direction or you don't get anywhere. You can know what you want all day long, and so long as you're not willing to take action to get it, you are out of your power. Okay? Fourth is setting good boundaries. Now, Why is setting good boundaries important? Well, the thing about boundaries is that they're the things that keep other people from infringing on you knowing what you want and taking action to get it. If you can't say no, if you can't draw the line in the sand and say no more and then enforce it, because some people are going to walk over those boundaries when you set them, especially if you're new to setting them, because they're used to you caving and doing whatever they want. You've trained them that that's who you are. So when you start to set boundaries, they're going to ignore them initially. So you have to be prepared to enforce them and say, no, I'm not doing this. And then they say, well, I'll just leave it on your desk and you can do it later. It's like, no, I'm not doing it. You have to be willing to say it again and reinforce it. And then if they still leave it on your desk, you have to be willing to leave it undone because they ignored your boundary, right? So if you don't reinforce it, then it doesn't actually get set in the first place, right? Now this isn't about, telling somebody to go F off. It's about saying, this is what I'm doing, and that's it, no more. This is, yes, I'll do this, no, I won't do that. And then you are in a place where you have sufficient time and energy for yourself, instead of putting yourself on the bottom of your own priority list all the freaking time, right? Okay. Now, this is the hard part. You have to be willing to be shunned. I'm going to stand off to the side so you can see what that word is. Shunned, as in evicted from your tribe, right? Now the reason you have to be willing to be shunned is that when you set good boundaries, you may piss people off. And they may decide that they don't like you anymore. And they may kick you out of their lives. You have to be prepared for that, and you have to be willing to walk through that. You have to say, it is more important for me to stand in my power and be able to be in control of my life than it is for me to be friends with you. And that means putting yourself as a top priority in your life, right? So you have to be willing for that to be the case. You have to be willing to be shunned, either on a small level or on a large level. So be prepared. Okay, now, the next one is, and this is going to be a really interesting one, belief in yourself as a competent human. Now, this means that you're able to get yourself out of bed in the morning, feed yourself, clothe yourself, get yourself to work, do what you need to do to take care of yourself and your family and your friends and whatever it is that you're trying to get accomplished in life. You are competent. You're not amazing, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be competent, right? And you have to believe that you are competent, which means not constantly asking other people their opinion or, trying to get other people to weigh in on stuff because you're not sure that you know what you're doing. Not to say that you shouldn't ever ask for help, because you should. It's important to ask for help. But on a core level, you believe that you're capable of running your own life. That's what this says. Okay? So now, and this is usually the hard part, especially for real estate agents. Belief that others are competent humans too. This is the hard part, right? Because when we get really good at stuff, and especially if we're of the martyr type, where we just kill ourselves to make everybody else happy, one of the first things we assume when we do that is we assume that other people are not competent. That we can do it better, that we are the only ones who can get this done, that we are so important that it has to be done by us. And the challenge with this behavior is that you don't get a life. And you're giving over your power to the belief that you're indispensable to others. And that is actually a way of giving up your power. I know it doesn't feel that way because it feels like you're in control when you're doing it, but it's actually giving up your power because you're not actually using your power for yourself, you're using it for others. Okay? And then the last one, And this is sometimes the hard one. Trust in the divine flow. Now you can change that language to be trust in the universe, trust in God, trust in a higher power, trust in your higher self, trust in your spirit guides, whatever language you want to use, whatever makes you happy, I don't care, okay? But this is all about trusting that there is a flow to life, and that there is a path and a plan, and that even if you don't understand what's happening right now, that there's a reason for it. And the reason that this is important is because if you stand in your power without acknowledgement of something greater than yourself, you end up in a very small world. You end up in a space where you often will go into a control mode. And this control mode pulls you out of flow, and it locks you in place. It ends up making you a bit of a control freak. So this is a very important piece, and we'll talk more about these in context in the next video, okay? So just to review, step number 1, take responsibility for what is in your life. Stop being a victim. Stop blaming other people for your unhappiness. Stop blaming other people for your circumstance. Stop blaming the market for there being no business. Stop blaming buyers or sellers for picking somebody else as an agent. And own that you did this. That you're the one creating your level of income and production. You're the one determining whether or not people hire you. You're the one who is creating your own happiness and choosing to be happy or not in every moment. Once you can own that, then you have power over it. Then you can influence it. As long as you're blaming someone or something else or circumstances for your situation, you are handing your power over to whatever you're blaming, and you are now powerless to fix it. So, take responsibility. Know what you want, which means taking time to figure it out. And then take action to get it, which means giving yourself permission to have it. Setting good boundaries, saying, I don't have time to do this, I do have time to do that, and reinforcing them when people ignore them, because they will. Be willing to be shunned in case people get pissed off and they decide that they don't want to deal with you anymore. Believe in yourself as a competent human. Know that you're capable of getting your life handled. And trust that others are competent humans too, which means you don't have to run their lives for them. You can just focus on running your own. And trust in the divine flow, that there's a purpose for everything, and that you're on the path to move forward. Okay? So, in the next video, we're going to talk about the ways to recognize when you've stepped out of your power, what those things are based on, and really lay out for you what it is that you need to know so that you know when you've stepped out, so that you can recognize that and then be able to step back in. So I hope this was helpful. We'll see you on the next video.